Are you buying new or are you buying used? Be prepared and don't fall into that trap. Expenses, ugh. And now they've either sold their business or they've gone bankrupt. I'm tired of arguing with people. Every phone call I get, I don't know why it was our best month, but it was. You can see how dumpster businesses fail because if you don't, I don't want to talk about the accident, but what really pissed me off was
Hey, this is Todd from Pack Mule. In this video, we're gonna break down 2025. It's gonna be our third full year in business. We're gonna break down our P&L. We're gonna break down the decision to buy more trucks and the size of trucks, what went into buying those and the decision-making on that process. We're gonna talk about our hiring practices. We hired a couple of drivers. We also had to add a CDL to that. We're gonna talk about the addition to driveway protection and why we felt that was important. And we're just gonna break it down and go from there.
revenue. We're gonna break this down month by month. January, we did $49,000. January is always a tough month for us. We looked at it and we thought part of the reason January obviously is cold. But another reason is people just don't want to spend money in January. They're paying off their credit cards. They're just recovering from Christmas. And it's just not a month where most people are motivated to do anything. So January was hard. February, we did $57,000. Same thing, cold, people aren't as motivated, no spring cleaning. But the month got better for us in February. March, we did $77,000. Why you see that increase is because middle of March, and it's March 17th, we delivered our first 30. So we've added 2 more trucks and 39 dumpsters, and we're starting to see that pay off. April, first full month running the 30s. Also, weather's better. People are starting to get out. They're starting to do more. They're getting the itch to do some spring cleaning. April, we did $119,000. May, a little bit less. We're not sure why. I mean, we thought maybe it's because of the holiday, Memorial Day. We dropped down to 115. Still good, still a great month. We did 115, and then June hits. I don't know why it was our best month, but it was. We did $152,000 in June. Hit July, which we know, again, 4th of July, holiday, a little bit of change there. We did $147,000, so we dropped off $5,000 from June to July. We go to August, we did $144,000, almost $145,000 in revenue. September is the same exact thing. And interestingly enough, August and September were both months where the weather stayed the same. We didn't have much rain. It was pretty much a drought the whole time, very consistent, and so was our revenue. So in September, we did $144,000. August, we did $144,000. Come to October, we did $141,000. November. We know November is when we start to see the slowdown. Thanksgiving holiday, people are just starting to wrap up. They moved on from the normal things they do throughout the year, and now we're getting focused on the holidays. So in November, we did $88,000. Wasn't bad. We didn't have any huge jobs. Guys were staying consistent, but as you can see, there's a clear drop off from October to November. And then in December, again, it's expected. It's nothing surprises us. It didn't scare us. In December, we did $75,000. So our numbers were better. Of course, we're going to talk about expenses next, but as your numbers are better, you had more expenses. We have, more fixed costs. We have higher insurance costs. We have higher payroll. We have higher loans on our vehicles. All that stuff hits more. But we see those peaks, right? We know what's going on. January, weather affects us. February, people are coming out of their shell. March and April, people are starting to do spring cleaning, and we can see how that climb goes through. I can see how dumpster businesses fail because if you don't stash money away in the summer, because winter's going to be hard on you. You got to stash money away. You got to hide that back, or at least know that not all the months are going to be good months. Now, if you're in the South, pretty much going to be have the same story year throughout the seasons. But for us up north, when it gets cold, man, you got to realize that it's coming. I think they said on Game of Thrones, winter's coming, and it's coming here. It came hard for us this year too, and it hurt. So be prepared and don't fall into that trap of not being ready for those cold months. All right, so our total expenses for 2025. Obviously, we talked about the revenue, 1.313, great year. The expenses, $940,000. And that's everything, man. That's trucks, that's interest, that's fuel, that's disposal, that's payroll taxes, marketing, rent. That's all of it. So I'll break it down for you a little bit more as we go through this. I'm a firm believer when you run your business, you have to run it off the margins that you're looking for, the margins that you want, the margins you can accept. And when you see what we made versus what we expensed, to me, it just makes it clear it's the only business decision you can make. Everything has to be run off of the margins that you want. All right, so I group these in a way, actually reflects how our business runs. So the first thing we'll talk about is going to be disposal costs. We're in a good area. As I do bin boss, I hear a lot of people say, and the beauty of bin boss is we talk to people throughout the nation. We had guys in Los Angeles who were running 3 and 4 yarders. We're talking to people in Boston. One Friday we talked to 4 different people just in the Massachusetts/Boston area who are interested. We see the whole spectrum of what people run. I mean, we're paying a lower rate when it comes to disposal costs for at the transfer station, the per ton costs. We got guys that are paying $120 per ton. The thing to keep in mind, you're going to look at me and you're going to see what my disposal costs are, and you're going to say, "Oh man, I wish that I had disposal costs of that," because we're cheap, man. We're like $40 a ton. I talk to people $120, $160 a ton, but the playing field's equal for everybody when it comes to that. When it comes to the per ton rate, wherever you are, northern Michigan, we're getting a lot of people calling us from Georgia, South Carolina area, wherever you are. Your competition's paying the same that you are when it comes to your disposal costs. I just want to throw that in there because it's something that we've been noticing on all the bin boss calls that we get. People want to harp on their disposal rates and what it is, but the playing field's the same for everybody out there. Just keep that in mind. Our disposal costs were $190,188. This is like when you get the numbers. These are real and accurate numbers because we get a monthly breakdown from the county on what we pay, and then also anything that we take to the C&D landfill, we know what that is. So our monthly breakdown is true. Some of the fuel costs, could be something else that goes in with that. It could be DEF that we got. It could be anything else. You try to be as accurate as you can, but we know that our disposal costs are spot on. So $190,000 we paid for disposal. Every month I get that bill, I want to complain, but I also know the higher that is, that means the more revenue we did. So all plays in with the profit margins, right? What you're looking for. Utilities. Now this includes shop utilities, power, water, etc. I separated these out from disposal because they're a completely different type of expense. So for non-disposal utilities, as we call it, $5,936. Okay, so number 3, when we talk about the breakdown of our expenses, is going to be our loan principal and interest. That came down to $142,000. That's going to cover the loan, like I said, it's the principal and it's the interest, and it's all about how we're growing our business, right? So if you're going to grow, you're going to have these types of expenses. when it comes to your vehicles, there's always a debate, and it's kind of like, the debate on. I listen to a bunch of firearms guys, and they're like, "What's better, the 9mm or the 45?" And you could talk about it all day. The same way when it comes to leasing or buying trucks, and then buying trucks, are you buying new or are you buying used? You're going to have that same expense no matter what it is. So ours was a combination of buying new and buying used. We haven't leased yet, but we're very strongly considering that because there's so many good things that come from leasing also, especially in our situation when we don't have a mechanic. I talk to people all day long anymore. I'm getting phone calls because of our potential BIM Boss customers asking me these questions. But anyways, getting back to what we were discussing, our loan, principal and interest, total $142,000 for the year. So the next expense, fairly expensive. I wasn't expecting it to be this much. Even though the number hits me, I see it, but it just didn't calculate, is the fuel. So for the year, and we're going to work on this because I know there's some ways that we can make this better, but it didn't dawn on me until I saw it right here. But we paid $82,000 for diesel in 2025. It's a lot of money, $82,000. Whew. The fuel, what we can do better, and we've had these discussions, I just haven't implemented enough, we can be using some fuel cards. We're not in a position where we can actually put fuel tanks on site. I'd love to do that, but I don't have the security to do it, and my landlord does not like that. The facility, long story, the facility he had, they had a biodiesel facility inside, and it cost him a ton of money for the APA to clean it up, and he does not want any diesel fuel tanks on site. So I'd like to get around that at some point in time and buy in bulk and maybe knock that 82,000 down. In all reality though, that number is going to go back up when we add some trucks this year. Repairs and maintenance. When we looked at buying the Kenworths, we knew that when we had used trucks that we could factor in probably, we guessed obviously, but we figured we'd be about $9,000 a month on those used trucks as we brought them on. And unfortunately, it wasn't quite that bad. For us for the year, for all 5 of our trucks, we paid $47,574. Now I can tell you 2026 is starting off that we're going to be paying a lot more than $47,000. We've had a rash on some things, partially because of the being so bitterly cold, and partially just because it's older and wear and tear. We've had some maintenance costs, and we're going to continue to have them because we bought used equipment. So, when you buy used, you get used. Even though we still think that we bought right, we have no regrets over what we did. We wouldn't be in the position we're in had we not. But, there's a lot of things, especially with the DEF and the sensors, as you guys know, it just sensors keep going off. And we'll go in, we'll get them cleared, and they come back on. Get them cleared, come back on. And the hard part about that is you don't know. The mechanic, we're fortunate we have 2 mechanics that we can go to who'll clear them for us. Like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But, the other day I got a phone call and my ops manager said, hey man, it's telling me if I don't shut this truck off, it's gonna basically blow up the engine. I forget what the exact code was, but we call in, they're like, turn it on, turn it off 3 times. After the 3rd time, let it set for 5 minutes, turn on. And we did, and it was fine, but you just never know. You never know what's legit and what's not legit, and then, what really could blow an engine. But yeah, so the breakdown on that though, we're going to have a lot more expenses. We knew it was coming. We factored it in with the loans, $47,000, a lot of money, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been. So the total vehicle operating cost was $129,000. That's your fuel and that's your repairs combined. I don't know if we can do better than that this year. I mean, if we do If it does cost more than that, I don't know how upset I'm going to be, because that means that we're running a lot and we should be making more money. All right. So as you guys know, I'm a firm believer in advertising and marketing. I push it hard. I think it's what separates us from the other companies. The other thing, and as you know with us, is our online ordering. That separates us from other companies. Advertising, marketing, climbing higher with the ranking on Google Maps, which we know how that starts. You got to get the reviews. That's a long process, but I put my money where my mouth is when it comes to this. We spent $127,000 on advertising and marketing for Pack Mule. That's 9.7% of our revenue. We could talk about this all day long. You guys that have my number, call me. However you want to do it, we can discuss it. It's worth it. So people are going to say, I can't afford that. I can't, 10%, that's a lot. Well, it is a lot, but we also had some great growth compared to a lot of our competition. I mean, in the Dayton area, I had a conversation the other day, just earlier this week, as a matter of fact, about our competitors who are no longer around. Talking about competitors that I saw every single day when I was going to the transfer station, people that I looked up to that weren't spending this kind of money. And now they've either sold their business or they've gone bankrupt. And it's not hard to find them if you look in Dayton. If you were in this area and you knew what was happening, you know the people I'm talking about that had large yards, large amount of trucks, and you saw them at the transfer station every day, and they're not keeping up with the times, and they're not marketing, and they're still not a viable option when it comes to dumpster rentals. So anyways, anybody who talks to me, who finds us through Bin Boss, or anybody who wants to talk dumpsters with me, it's non-negotiable. If you're not going to spend the money on the marketing, you shouldn't be doing this. You're not going to survive, especially going forward where you have to rank on Google Maps. You have to continually be pulled up when it comes to your competition, and you have to be easy to book a dumpster with. That means a big old click, buy now button that goes for online orders. Insurance costs, I know it's on everybody's mind. It's gone up for everybody. What I have noticed is the amount of stupid commercials on college football for insurance has not gone down, yet my insurance costs continue to rise, and they say it's just all part of the business. I tried to get my insurance guy on here. I'm still trying to talk about that, how that industry works. But our insurance costs for the year was $47,656. So I know we all pay a lot. Some things, I guess maybe we could avoid, but that's what we paid for the year.
Aren't you going to talk about the accident?
I don't want to talk about the accident.
We have people want to hear that.
Okay, so anyways, we had 2 accidents last year. One was clearly our fault. Was on video. Not a good situation. Nobody got hurt. Totally avoidable. From a driver who was new to us and no longer with us. Just a bad situation. I pride myself in this business. We have kept and maintained a lot of our same employees. I brought somebody on, a friend of a friend. She wasn't with us long, wrecked the truck. I was okay with wrecking the truck. It was still her fault, obviously. If you watch the video, there's no other way around it. It was her fault. But what really pissed me off was that Tuesday she wrecked the truck. Friday she's in a small truck. We're not going to put her in a big truck and reward her for wrecking. Friday she's in a small truck, goes home sick halfway through the day and sticks everybody else with her runs. And that one still 6 months later burns me up. We did have one other accident where we were in the smaller truck and we were supposed to be turning, it was 3 lanes. The driver told him to go left. He wanted to go one street down and go left. He gets into the second lane. As he's merging over, a car from the far right lane comes in and hits him or cuts him off. I mean, he literally got a picture. It was $1,400 in damage that it did to her car. And it was just a nick that was in plastic. But then she also sued us and got $14,000 for a little nick that was in her car. So that one pissed me off too. But I don't really blame my nephew for that one because we went to court and he was found not guilty, but the insurance company decided to pay that one out. So maybe that's why some of our insurance costs are going up. But also, like I said, commercial, their amount of commercials that the insurance companies run aren't going down. We're going to move on. Done with insurance. Running a dumpster company isn't for the faint of heart. It's long hours, juggling drivers, chasing payments, all while trying to keep the next job on track. I'm Todd, owner of Pack Mule Dumpster Rentals. Trust me, I've lived every headache you're dealing with right now. That's why we built Bin Boss. It's more than software. It's a system that makes your dumpster business run like a machine. So you can handle more jobs without more trucks, let customers book online anytime, keep them happy with real timelines, and finally get invoices out before they collect dust. We haul too, and that's why this works. You want to see how it can transform your business? Bet on yourself with Bin Boss and book a demo today. All right, general business expenses. So this is going to include small tools, office supplies, equipment purchases, miscellaneous operational costs, admin-related spending. It's just kind of like a bucket of stuff that we, maybe you can't find the proper place to put it, but we still need to account for it. So that adds up to $50,199. Rent. We've done a really good job. We've controlled it as best we can for right now. I do think that we're going to have to get our own facility at some point in time. But right now, our rent, and we have a really good yard, and that rent just went up some. We have a really good yard. It's 500 yards away from the transfer station. But our rent for the year was $14,558. For our two locations, I feel really good about that. All right, so we're on to number 9 right now. Number 9 expense is going to be labor expenses. You're right at $220,000 for that last year. Well, small business sounds like a lot, but man, you can't get these dumpsters delivered if you don't have good people working for you, so you got to pay them. That's how we manage it. We pay our guys well and we keep them. We break it down even more. We have meals. Here's employee meals, customer meetings, etc. $4,442. Office expenses, software, office materials, minor tech costs, whatever that may be, $2,730. Supplies. These are operational consumables, as we would call them. It could be anywhere from, stuff that we throw on the truck, shirts, different things just a different grab bag of things that we need to operate. Tow straps would go under supplies. That amounted to $15,438. Grand total on our expenses for 2025 was $940,433. So when you break it down, the final net income, the revenue, 1.313 minus the $940,000. Final net income was $373,184. When we ran the numbers, we had a 27.8% margins is what we came up with. I think I'm going to tell everybody we shoot for 23 to 25. We were higher because of the 30-yarders being at a higher price point. Obviously, 30-yarders, the margins are higher on those. And so it threw us off a little bit in a good way. Our margins were higher than what we thought. It was better than being lower than what we thought. So, the bottom line is, if you're running the numbers, doing what you think is best for the company, you can stay and you set that, margin where you want it. If you work hard, you're gonna expect to hit that number. So were we happy with $373,000, for our final income? Yeah, it was good. Hopefully we're gonna hit that again this year. Now, when it comes to running this business, one of the things that we like to look at is what we call our per order breakdown. So in 2025, we completed over 3,200 dumpster orders. I mean, there were days I know that we looked on one day in September, I think we had 47 tasks between 5 drivers. That's a busy day. On average, it's about $400 in revenue per order, about $294 in expense per order, and roughly $117 in net profit per dumpster order. I talk to so many people like, well, that's not even worth running. That's not worth me starting the truck over. I mean, that's $117 per dumpster order that you're making in profit. I think that's worth starting a truck for. Just me. So after breaking down 2025, we'll talk about what we have planned in 2026. This is February. We've already started end of the year. We started working on those goals back in October, and we came up with some ideas on what we wanted to do. I will say we've gotten a little sidetracked with Bin Boss. That's taken up a lot of time because when we had to institute that platform for Pack Mule, so our plans are a little bit delayed. I don't want to say too much delayed. I should have moved forward with a couple of things and I haven't yet. However, some things have popped up too because we were delayed. So we'll see how that works out. Next week, we're going to look at a couple of used trucks and we're going to see how that plays out. We want to hire another driver. We actually probably are going to hire 2, maybe even 3 drivers. We trained one yesterday. I'm waiting on commitment from another. We want to go with a smaller truck that can run the 30s. We don't need T880s running out there for everything. I'd like to go with a smaller 480. I've had some talk about some Peterbilts, not just Kenworths. I don't know really the pros and cons. Don't know the difference between, I mean, I've seen the differences, but I haven't experienced the difference between a Kenworth or a Peterbilt or whatever else you like. I know some people are really brand loyal. I've never been a brand loyal guy. We run Rams, 1 Ram, 2 Chevys. I'd like for my next truck to be a Ford. I'm not loyal to a brand. I'm loyal to reliability. The other thing we're going to do for 2026, and hopefully when you see this, we've already launched and it's successful. We are going to start smaller driveway dumpsters. I'm tired of arguing with people. Every phone call I get is people saying, I want your smallest dumpster. No, I'm exaggerating. It's not every phone call, but I get so many phone calls saying, I want your smallest dumpster. Okay, my smallest dumpster's a 14. I don't need anything that big. I don't have that much. And of course, when you show up, when you sell them a 14, it stuff's heaping over the top. I'm tired of telling people, I'd rather just sell you 1 dumpster instead of 2. We're going to start selling them 2. We're going to launch into 6 and 10 yard dumpsters in 2026. We're going to have 1, maybe 2 trucks to haul those. I started looking into it. I think there's more margin in the smaller ones. I think that America has a problem with how much junk they actually have for 2 reasons. They don't believe they have that much junk, or they don't know how to calculate cubic yards. On our webpage, we've done our best. I don't know how we can make it any more clear for you what a cubic yard looks like and what's going to fit into a dumpster. But I think a lot of people just underestimate how much crap they have. And that way we'll just sell them 2 of these driveway dumpsters, these smaller driveway dumpsters instead of 1. And you know what? They can pay for it. And I know that when I send a driver out there, we're going to be ripping stuff off of it because they're going to try to overfill it. But these are going to be lower. It won't be as hard to get stuff out. And we're just going to see how it goes. So, hopefully when you're seeing this show, we're going to report back and talk about how great it was for us to expand that way in the smaller markets. So our operational growth for 2026, we've already started on this one. This is February. We have hired, she's been here for a week and a half doing a great job. We have a full-time dispatcher. She's the one who's taking most of the phone calls. What that's going to allow me to do, and I know a lot of you guys struggle with this in running your business. You don't want to step away. You want the hands-on, but it's hard. When you're knee deep in it, when you're in the forest, you can't see anything but the trees. You got to be able to step back and see that big picture and where you need to go. It's tough for a lot of you guys. You don't want to lose that control. I'm finding it refreshing. There are some things that I have to repeat with my ops manager that I wish I didn't, but he's still young and he's growing and he's got a hell of a lot more enthusiasm about it than I do right now. And when I say I do, that's the everyday deliveries, just because right now I'm dealing with so many other things, right? Marketing, growth. When I say growth, I mean where we're taking this business in the future. And of course, Bin Boss. I mean, I spend 6 hours a day typically on Bin Boss. So it doesn't leave me a whole lot for Pack Mule, so it better run right. Unfortunately, it is. So one of the other things that we're going to do for 2026, because of the great experience we had with the 30s, and we know the demand, we've already implemented this. We're gonna go focus more on being proactive on the sales for 30-yard dumpsters. So we found a couple websites where there's construction in the area, where there's some things that'll be like proposed construction and permits, and we're tracking that down and how to get ahead of, hopefully 4, 5, 6 months out, how to get ahead of where the dumpsters are going to be. So that's something that we're working on. In our growth too, one of the things I didn't discuss is I was surprised once we added 40s last year. I knew when we ordered 30s that we would have those filled. We discussed that on one of the other shows where as soon as we had the 30s, they were all gone. Did I want to buy 39? No, that's too many. I'll buy them, and next thing you know, they're out. I had very, very little demand for the 40s. I mean, I didn't have very many calls for people saying, I need a 40. There was no bids for 40s. But as soon as we got the 40s, I had 2 of them now, they're gone. Maybe it's the way we priced them. I'm not sure. But the 40s, I can't keep them in stock. So we will be buying more 40s. The plan right now is to get 8 more 40s and 1 to 2 more concrete dumpsters. Concrete did pretty well for us too. Once we got that out, obviously in it's February, it's not concrete season here. So I don't know how well it'll do. I'd like to have another one come April or May when it starts to warm up. And I think we can do well with that one. The profit margins on concrete dumpsters are pretty strong. So just part of our plans for 2026. I talk to guys, again, we're on Bin Boss calls all the time, and I talk to people and they're just like, hey, we're happy where we're at. We just want to stay where we are. We don't want to add any more people. I'm not there. I don't know if that'll ever will be there. We always want to grow. We're always looking for new challenges. We're always looking to do more stuff.